Hi everybody. Ljubljana, Slovenia, in a country long recognized as one of Europe's Catholic heartlands, a quiet shift has begun. It is not loud. It is not political. It does not appear in headlines or parliamentary debates. Yet it is visible to anyone who pays attention to the human heart. On certain evenings in the capital, as the sky dims and the city settles, the call to prayer from Ljubljana Central Mosque rises softly into the air. Some passers-by stop, not because they understand the words, but because something about it feels peaceful. For decades, Muslims in Slovenia were a small minority, roughly 3 to 4% of the population. They lived calmly, almost invisibly. However, in recent years, researchers and religious organizations have observed something they did not expect. More and more Slovenians are seeking out Islam on their own. Not through campaigns, not through loud debates, but through personal searching. I wasn't looking for a new religion. I was looking for peace. Mateusz, 27 years old, grew up Roman Catholic. He describes himself as someone who tried everything to find inner balance: self-help books, meditation apps, spiritual workshops abroad. Yet something always felt missing. When I read the Quran for the first time, it felt like someone was speaking directly to a part of me I didn't know how to reach. There was no confusion, no noise, just clarity. It felt like coming home. Stories like Mateusz's are becoming more common. A university professor of religious studies in Ljubljana calls this a silent conversion wave. These are individuals who are not seeking identity battles or political statements. They are seeking meaning. Islam offers structure, purpose, and community in a world that feels increasingly fragmented. While historic churches still stand tall in every Slovenian city, many have begun to empty during Sunday services. Meanwhile, the mosque sees new visitors every week, some simply curious, others deeply moved. There are no banners announcing a revolution, no organizations shouting for change. Only conversations, books exchanged, coffee shared, and questions asked quietly late at night. Those who embrace Islam often describe the same feelings: inner calm, a sense of direction, belonging, answers that feel complete. Slovenia is not suddenly becoming a Muslim majority nation. That is not the story here. The story is subtler, more human, and perhaps more powerful. It is about a generation that feels the emptiness of rushed modern life and chooses to fill it not with noise, but with faith. It is about people finding stillness in a world that rarely stops. The question now quietly echoes through Ljubljana streets. Is Slovenia entering a new spiritual chapter? The shift is not loud, not dramatic, not forced. It is simply happening, one heart at a time. For many Slovenians, the Central Mosque in Ljubljana is more than a building. It is a symbol of patience, a reminder that faith sometimes grows slowly, like a tree that refuses to give up, even when the soil is hard. The journey began in the 1960s when the first Muslim communities from Bosnia and Sanjak arrived in Slovenia for work and study. They lived peacefully, worked, raised families, but they had no house of worship. They prayed in small rented rooms, basements, or community halls. Every year, they requested permission to build a mosque. Every year, they were told to wait. Some officials worried about public reaction. Others avoided the discussion entirely. The request moved from office to office, decade after decade. Many who signed the first petitions did not live long enough to see their dream fulfilled. Yet no one abandoned the project. They continued calmly. They spoke respectfully with local authorities. They collected donations from families who worked in factories, construction sites, and farms. They saved every coin. A local researcher later wrote, "The perseverance of Slovenia's Muslims was not loud, it was steady. They negotiated, they worked, and they waited." Then, slowly, the atmosphere shifted. The younger generation of Slovenians, more used to diversity and travel, began to view the mosque not as a threat, but as a sign of openness. Religious leaders engaged in dialogues. Architects proposed a modern and welcoming design, with glass, light, and open gardens rather than walls that shut out the city. Construction finally began in 2013. 7 years later, in 2020, the mosque opened its doors. It was not just Muslims who came to see it. Thousands of curious residents visited during the opening weeks, stepping inside not out of conversion but out of interest. Many were surprised. The place did not feel foreign. It felt calm, clean, quiet. Sunlight passed through pale blue glass, reflecting softly on white walls. Water flowed gently in a courtyard fountain. The entire structure seemed built to encourage breathing, thinking, and stillness. A Slovenian visitor, a retired school teacher, spoke softly after her first visit. "I thought it would feel so different. Instead, it felt peaceful. It felt familiar in a way I didn't expect." The mosque did not arrive quickly, it arrived patiently. Now it stands not only as a place of prayer, but as a sign of coexistence, a reminder that even in a nation deeply shaped by Catholic tradition, there is room for new spiritual journeys. The story continues. With every prayer, every visitor, every student who sits in its study hall late into the evening, searching not for argument, but for meaning. The rise of Islam in Slovenia is not dramatic on the surface. There are no rallies or loud clashes. Instead, the most intense moments happen in living rooms, dinner tables, and quiet personal conversations. When a Slovenian decides to embrace Islam, the first question is often not from society, but from family. Some families respond with curiosity, others with confusion, occasionally with fear. Not because they reject their loved one, but because they do not understand what has changed. A young woman from Maribor, who converted last year, described the moment she told her parents. "I was shaking. I thought they would be angry. My father just looked at me for a long time. Then he said, 'Are you happy?' I said yes. He nodded. That was it." For many families, the conversation becomes less about religion and more about well-being. If their son or daughter becomes calmer, kinder, more patient, it is difficult to argue that the change is bad. However, the media tells a different story. News outlets in Slovenia, like in many European countries, often speak about Islam only in relation to global political issues, conflict, migration, security, rarely about community, charity, or daily life. This contrast creates a strange situation. Some Slovenians meet Muslims only through headlines. Others meet them through neighbors, classmates, co-workers, and the difference between the two experiences can be enormous. Sociologists in Ljubljana have noted a subtle but steady pattern. Where personal contact exists, acceptance is high. Where only media images exist, fear remains. This is why the mosque, community dinners, and open public lectures have mattered so much. They create real encounters. One popular event at the Ljubljana Mosque is simply called Coffee and Questions. Anyone can walk in, sit down, drink coffee, and ask anything. No lectures, no pressure, just conversation. A journalist who attended one wrote afterward, "There was no debate, no attempt to win, only listening. I did not leave Muslim, but I left with warmth toward those who welcomed me. In public life, the shift is slow but visible. More schools host interfaith discussions, more churches participate in joint charity projects with Muslim communities, more young people speak openly about religion without embarrassment. Slovenia is not in a cultural war. It is in a cultural conversation, a quiet one, a human one. Not everyone agrees with the change. Some voices still speak with suspicion or fear. This is natural. Every shift in the society brings questions and hesitation. Yet one thing is becoming clearer. The presence of Islam in Slovenia is no longer seen as foreign. It is becoming part of the social landscape. Not imposed, not forced, simply lived. One person at a time. The rise of Islam in Slovenia is not a revolution. It is not a movement with slogans or banners. It is more like a river that changes the land not through force, but through steady, gentle persistence. The question now is what this means for the country in the years ahead. Slovenia has always been shaped by strong traditions. Catholic heritage, family values, and a sense of community have deep roots. Islam does not erase these foundations. Instead, it settles into the landscape beside them, forming a new layer in the story of the nation. In the coming years, several things are likely to happen. 1. Interfaith dialogue will grow. More churches, mosques, and community groups will speak with each other, not to convert, but to understand. 2. Youth will become the bridge. Young Slovenians who travel, study abroad, and meet diverse people will guide the tone of future conversations. They will be more open, curious, and reflective. 3. The mosque will become a cultural space, not only a place of prayer, but a center for art, education, charity, and social programs that benefit the wider public. 4. Identity will expand. The idea of what it means to be Slovenian will grow. It will not be tied to a single religion, but to shared values of dignity, respect, and community. This shift will not be without challenges. Every society experiences tension when traditions and new expressions of faith meet. Some will question, some will resist, some will welcome. Yet the tone of this change so far suggests something rare. It is happening without hostility. People are not shouting at one another. They are sitting together, talking, thinking, and searching. They are learning that belief is not a battlefield. It is a journey. An elderly Slovenian man who attends both church services and mosque open events described the moment simply. Maybe God is larger than we knew. Maybe there is more room in faith than we imagined. The future of Slovenia will not be defined by which religion grows faster. It will be defined by the quality of heart, the depth of dialogue, and the kindness with which people meet each other. If the current trend continues, Slovenia may become one of Europe's most unexpected examples of peaceful, spiritual evolution. Not loud, not forced, quiet, steady, human. A new chapter has begun. It will be written day by day, person by person, heart by heart.